everything that's out there that's a public road that's on the inventory into the farm.
you get a better.
Good morning. This is Arnold Yanito calling in.
Good afternoon. This is Jermaine Simonson calling in.
Good afternoon, Delegate Sentenson. Currently, we have 3 delegates online. We're still waiting for a quorum.
Delegate James present.
Uh, Delegate James is present, as well as Toth. As well as Mr. Toth. He's just, I told him. Hello, Angelita?
Delegate Simonson, am I here?
Yes, this is Delegate Simonson. Hi, Karen. We're,
Hi.
just letting you know, Delegate James and, Holt are here. And we're ready to listen. They're logging on, but they're listening.
Okay, we also have investigators here as well. So we have four.
Okay. It's already 3.
Good afternoon, Chair James.
Chair James?
Say it again.
Good afternoon, this is Delegate James.
Good afternoon, Delegate. It appears that we'll have a forum. Delegate, Nez Gay is in person in the VNF conference room. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Is everybody else on travel? Not on travel. Thank you.
Everyone. Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
You need to log into.
It's under the. Yate Masana.
Chair James, are you chairing the meeting?
Hi, Angelita. Yes, he is, but we're, Mr. Carlisle Begay's trying to find a way to connect us to a laptop in which we can see it on the big screen.
Okay.
Can you resend the agenda?
Yes.
Uh,
I was going to and then they sent over. So let me see if I can find that. I don't know, let me find out.
Okay, Ms. Benali, are we ready?
I sent the agenda.
Okay.
again.
All right, then, good afternoon, everyone. This is our Health, Education, Human Service Committee, 25th Now Nation Council, special meeting on April 12th at 1 p.m. With that, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order here at 1:09 p.m. With that, next item is roll call. Ms. Benali, can you do roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a roll call for the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, special meeting, April 12th, 2023. And the place of the Budget and Finance, OLS conference room. Delegate Helena Nesbigay. Present. Thank you. Delegate Vince R. James.
Delegate James present.
Thank you. And Delegate Dr. Andy Nez.
Present.
Thank you. And Delegate Jermaine Simonson.
Delegate Simonson present.
Thank you. And Delegate George Toe.
I'm here, present.
Thank you. And Delegate Curtis Unito. Are you present? Delegate Curtis Unito. Delegate Unito, can you please answer roll call? Mr. Chair, you have 5 members answering roll call. We do see Delegate Unito on the Zoom call, but he might have an audio.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. All right, thank you, Delegate Unito. Mr. Chair, you have 6 members answering roll call, constitutes a quorum.
Thank you very much, Legislative Advisor, Ms. Benali, for the roll call. We do have a quorum. So with that, thank you, committee members, for joining, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is invocation. Earlier this morning, we did have an invocation, so we'll go ahead and utilize that invocation. Moving on to the next item, under item number 1 is announcements. Committee members, do we have any announcements?
No.
Going once, going twice, 3 times. There are no announcements. Moving on to number 2, recognition, guests, and visiting officials. Committee members, are there any recognition of guests and visiting officials? Going once, going twice, none. Moving on to the next item, which is item number 3, review and adopt the agenda. Legislative Advisor, Ms. Benali, please assist.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee of your proposed agenda. The Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, 25th Now Nation Council, special meeting, April 12, 2023. Presiding, the Honorable Vince R. James, Chairperson, the Honorable Jermaine Simonson, Vice Chairperson. Location is Budget and Finance, OLS Conference Room, via telecommunications, Winter Rock, Navajo Nation, Arizona. One call meeting to order, roll call, invocation, announcements. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journals. None. 5, receiving reports. None. 6, old business. None. 7, new business. 8 is legislation number 005623, and the sponsor is Andy Nez. And this particular new business was pending the committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee. B is the legislation number 0060-23. The sponsor is Delegate Danny Simpson, and this legislation was also pending a committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee. C, legislation number 0062-23. Sponsored are Delegate Brenda Jesus, and co-sponsored is Delegate Andy Nez. 8, close of meeting announcements and adjournment. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Benali, for reading the agenda. So with that, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda, committee members? With that, we have Honorable Vice Chair making a motion to adopt the agenda.
A second.
Second made by Honorable Toll. Staff, did you get that?
Yes, we did.
Motion made by Vice Chair and second by Honorable Toll to adopt the agenda that was read into the record. Motioning party, I'd like to also request if we could add on legislation 0050-23. And it's the summer youth employment legislation. And that is being sponsored by Honorable Seth Damon. Motioning parties, can we add that under new business as item D? Vice Chair? Is that okay?
Legislation 0050-23.
Summary.
Yes, I agree.
Honorable George.
I agree.
Thank you, motioning party. So with that, are there any other amendments, corrections, deletion of the agenda? Committee members? If there's no other add-ons, corrections, or deletions to our agenda, I will go ahead and call for a second reading. Ms. Benali?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's been an amendment to the agenda that's been read into record, and that's to add legislation number 0050-23. And it's regarding the an action relating to the budget and finance and development, health and human services committee, and non-EM committees, and the nomination council approving $2 million from the unreserved unlimited fund balance for the 120 chapters. Summer youth 2023 youth employment programs, wage 12 NMC sections 820E, 820F, 820G, 820L to allow use of the UUFE for recurring chapter expenses. The sponsor is supplement. Councilor Delegate.
Ms. Benali for reading the agenda for the second reading of adopting our agenda. With that, there is a motion that was made by Vice Chair and second by Honorable Toll. If there's no other questions, since we have the second reading, I'll go straight to voting with one item added to the agenda. Roll call vote. Honorable Helena Nez-Begay.
I vote green.
Honorable Dr. Andy Nez.
Green.
Honorable Vice Chair Simonson.
Green.
Honorable George Toll.
In favor.
Honorable Curtis Unito.
Vote green.
With that, we do have 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting. With that, we do have an agenda before us. Moving on to the next item, which is item number 4, review and adopt the journal. There is none. Number 5, receiving report. There is none. Number 6, old business. There is none. Item number 7, new business. We have one item A, legislation number 0056-23. Do we have the sponsor, Honorable Delegate Andy Nez?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, with that, second reading, Ms. Benali.
Mr. Chair, you have your number 7 new business, A, legislation number 0056-23, an action relating to budget and finance, education and human services, and non-executive committees of the Nomination Council. Approving the use of Title 4D funds by the Navajo Nation of Social Services. And the legislation, does have, it does move on to the non-jurisdiction committee, and exhibit A, Title 4-E program is attached. And also the legislation has gone through the 5-day comment period, and those comments were received. Mr. Chair.
Thank you with that, for reading that into the record. With that, I'll go ahead and, give the floor to Honorable Helena Nasbigay to ask for a motion in a second, and then question, and then voting on this legislation.
So. Mr. Chair, did you recognize Delegate Helena Nasbigay as potential?
Yes, I did, Ms. Benali. I just, made that announcement. Honorable Helena Nasbigay, Pro Temp Chair.
Okay, yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and do legislation number 0056-23. We'll take need a motion for that, and second.
A motion, Mr. Cole.
Give us where.
Second, we have a second.
Delegate Sampson seconds.
Okay, thank you. You had motion outside, so second either. Okay, I think,
It's Madam Chair Filter.
yes, go ahead, Angie.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the Health Education and Human Services Committee. I need to, for the record, indicate that 0056-23, that it did have the committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee, who considered it on April 11th, and the vote was 5 in favor and 0 opposed for this particular legislation. Madam Chair Pro Tem?
Do we have any question on this legislation? Going once, twice? No. No questions, we'll go ahead and go for a roll call vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is a roll call vote for approval of legislation 0056-23. Delegate Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James.
Thank you. Delegate Dr. Andy Yes, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. And Delegate Jermaine Simonson, how do you vote?
Delegate Sampson votes green.
Thank you. And Delegate George Stone, how do you vote?
In favor, please.
Thank you. And Delegate Curtis Unito, how do you vote?
Delegate to vote green.
Thank you. Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have 5 in favor, and the Chair Pro Tem not voting.
Do I go on with this? One to the next now. Okay, we'll go on to the next legislation. Number 0060-23. And we have the sponsor here. If you're room with us, Delegate Danny Sampson. Can you read it and direct us, Angie?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for them. Have your proposed legislation. 0060-23. And it is an action. To the Office of the Community to cover a funding shortfall for the Dunklin Youth Complex, approving the related expenditure plan. The legislation does move on to the non-DF committee. Also, attach are exhibits A, exhibit B, exhibit C, exhibit D, exhibit E. And on April 5th, 2023, the legislation was posted for public comments, and there were 2 supporting comments that were received. So the Budget and Finance did submit their committee report for legislation 0060-23. And the Budget and Finance Committee voted in favor of the legislation of a vote of 3-0, and that was taken on April 11th, 2023. Madam Chair Pro Tem?
Okay, we'll go on. May I have a motion to this legislation?
Mr. Toth, motion.
I'll second. This is Delegate Ness.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the HEHSC committee?
Nada.
If there's no question, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Angie?
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. It's the roll call vote for legislation number 0060-23, and the sponsor, Delegate Lee Simpson, is present for the record. The delegate James, how do you vote?
Delegate Chan votes green.
Thank you. Delegate Dr. Inez, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Delegate Mitch Simonson, how do you vote?
Delegate Simonson votes green.
Thank you. Delegate George Type, how do you vote?
I vote green.
And Delegate Curtis Vito, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have a vote of 5-0, and the Chair Pro Tem not voting.
Okay, thank you, Angie. Looking at the option. Thank you for being
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pro Chair.
We'll go on to the next legislation number 62-23, and the sponsor is Brenda. Brenda. This is sponsored by Delegate Ness. So. Is Delegate Chahus present? Online? Okay, Andy, Brenda's not, Delegate Brenda Chahus is not in the building or not responding online, so Delegate Andy Nasbigay will go ahead and have you sponsor this one. So I need a motion to this legislation.
Delegate James will motion.
Simonson second.
Okay, thank you. And okay. And Angie will go ahead and let you read that legislation into the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. The legislation that is before you is legislation number 0062-23. And it is, it does move on to the non-DF committee. And it's an action relating to the Health Education, Human Services, Budget and Finance and Non-PA committees on the Navigation Council approving $1,573,288 from the unreserved undesignated fund balance to the Division of Social Services for the grant to St. Michael's Association for special education. The sponsors are Delegates Brenda Hassouf and Delegate Antonia, and I believe it's Delegate Seth Damon as well. It's indicated. The legislation does have Exhibit B, which is seeking financial assistance to the sustaining funding proposal. Exhibit B is a resolution from the St. Michael's Association Special Education Board of Directors for a financial request. And Exhibit C is a grant nomination grant application form. Exhibit D is a memorandum from Thomas Cody, Executive Director, indicating referring to the unreserved and designated fund balance regarding social services to St. Michael's Association for Special Education. Also is Exhibit F, which is from the Office of the Controller, Robert Willie, the County Manager, and it's requested from St. Michael's Association of Special Education. Also is Exhibit G, which is from the OEB, also referencing the request for the amount of $1,573,280 from the UFE for St. Michael's Special Education. There is a transmittal letter from the Office of the Legislative Council attached. Also, the legislation has gone through the 5-day public comment period, and no comments were received. There's also a change of assignment that was approved, indicating the legislation would go to BNF prior to the Health Education and Human Services Committee. Also attached is the committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the legislation 0062-23, and it was approved by vote of 4-0 by the BNF committee on April 11, 2023. Madam Chair, pro tem.
Okay, thank you, Monty. Is there any questions on this legislation?
No.
Going once? No questions? Okay, going once, twice. Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. A roll call vote back. Andrew.
Madam Chair, pro tem, this is the roll call vote for legislation 0062-23. Delegate Vince R. James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jan votes green.
Thank you. Delegate Dr. Andy Nance, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Delegate Jimmy Simon, how do you vote? Delegate Jermaine Simonson.
Green.
Thank you. And Delegate George Tilley.
Green, please.
And Delegate Curtis Unito.
Green.
Thank you. Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have a vote at 5-0 with the Chair Pro Tem not voting.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So, we go on to the next one.
Yes, if you could, Madam Chair Pro Tem, if you could, give us a couple of minutes to go get the copy of the next legislation. That would be D, and it would be 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We get to take a brief recess. Well,
We're gonna take a 5 minutes recess to get the lesson.
Already. Thank you for your hard work. Yeah, did I take your picture with our, yeah. With our sheriff. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, St. Michael.
Talking from friend of lady. Sarah, are you gonna get a copy?
We're gonna do the amendment and substitute,
Was she almost done?
yeah.
There's one more hand on the link for that. It's been pretty simple. The committee report is done, bring it in. But meanwhile, we're gonna, let me run the legislation. I need a copy of it.
Highlight is that we, everything we do from our curriculum, our supplementary educational services, our social, emotional, our behavioral health services, everything that we provide for our students, is really grounded in our mission. And our mission is what we call our ideal graduate statement. And at the heart of that, it's about helping our students, supporting them, fostering them to be contributing members of their community when they graduate. And that really is what drives what we do. And I suspect that something like that or similar to that is the heart of what many graduates are for. And we are very proud of what we.
I'm gonna unmute myself for that.
Recording in progress.
Mr. Chair, members of the Health Education and Human Services Committee, we, Pro Tem Chair called a recess for a few minutes so that we can, we're waiting for a committee report from the Resource and Development Committee for legislation 0050-23. We have this 59-23 already. Do you have it? I don't have it. It hasn't been added to the agenda. But you have it. No, I don't have that. I think it was at privacy. Yeah, Mr. Delegate Simpson.
This is on Delegate James. Ms. Benali, did you get a confirmation on when we'll be receiving that information? The committee report regarding legislation 0050-23?
Sure, we understand that RDC has signed it and they're waiting for it to be delivered over to legislative tracking. But legislative tracking, as we understand, has not received the document yet, the committee report from RDC yet. And that's what we're waiting for.
So my request to Pro Temp Chair, Honorable Helena Nez-Begay, can we, and while we're waiting for the document, can we give some time to the sponsor to provide us information regarding this legislation? And then we can come back to it once we get the committee report.
Yes. Okay, so then, yes, we can do that. And we have the request. We have a request to add on a legislation number 0059-23. We're also waiting for that too. That's going to be sponsored by Delegate Danny Simpson. So we're waiting for the committee report on that one. So we have the committee. Okay, we'll go ahead and have we have Delegate Casey Johnson in the room here, so we can give him the floor to give us some information on legislation number 0050-3. So Casey, okay, please, Johnson.
Good afternoon, my honorable HEHSC committee colleagues. Thank you for allowing me to present this legislation, tracking number 0050-23, action related to the budget of finance, resource development, health, education, human resource, and HEHSC committees, and the Navajo Nation Council. This is approving $2 million from the unreserved undesignated fund balance, the UUFB, for the 110 chapters, summer 2023 youth employment programs. So this is going to be using the waiving the 12 Navajo Nation Code 820E, 820F, 820J, and 820L to allow use of UUFB funds for recurring chapter expenses. That's the summary of the proposed legislations, my honorable colleagues. So it's for,
Okay, thank you, Delegate Casey Johnson. And do we have any questions?
Shut it, Pro Tem Chair, this is Delegate James. Is there, I know you guys are still retrieving the documents for legislation number 0050-23. Is there an updated front cover to where we have a co-sponsor signature on that document as well? By any chance, do we have an updated copy? Because right now I only see Honorable Seth Damon's signature on the documents that we have.
Okay, I'm gonna give the floor to Angie. Go ahead, Angie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Pro Tem. Delegate James, yes, there is an updated version, and it does have Delegate Casey Johnson's signature on there as a co-sponsor. And Mr. Damon is here, and Mr. Damon is also on the Zoom call as well. Would you like the legislation email to you with the updated, the first page that indicates that Delegate Johnson's signature is on the page?
Yes, Ms. Benali, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Thank you. And Delegate Damon is on the call as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Delegate Damon is on call. If you guys have any questions.
I do have a question in regards to the amount that you guys came to 2 million. How did you guys get to 2 million?
But for most people, until their age change, they go to school, the education credits, for which there are over a dozen of them. Some
Okay, Damon, are you
Yes, Madam Pro Tem Chair, can you hear me? This is Damon.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the Health, Education, Human Services Committee, and thank you very much, Madam Pro Tem Chair, Honorable Nesby Gay, for pro temming this meeting, and thank you to our colleagues in the Health, Education, Human Services Committee for adding this legislation 0050-23 on the agenda, and thank you, Honorable Casey Allen Johnson, for co-sponsoring this legislation and moving forward with this and being there present in the Budget and Finance Committee conference room. The legislation that you see before you, and going back to Madam Pro Tem Chair, the question that Honorable Chairman Vince James is alluding to is that the breakdown that was given and the research that was help assisted on the minimal points of working through the past 8 to 9 years of sponsoring additional summer youth employment legislations have been a variable anywhere between 1.5 to $4.5 million over the years. And what this legislation is bringing forward, Honorable James, is $2 million. The reason why there's nobody that brought this forth. There was no recommendation from the Office of the President, Vice President. There was no recommendation from the Division of Community Development. There was no recommendation from any organization that might represent youth employment, whether that be ODY or the Division of Human Services in this case. And that's the reason why I enacted on this to work together to get the summer youth employment legislation together, Honorable Chairman James. And I did pick the number of $2 million, and that figure came from my own coffers of putting this legislation together. No, there was no other further assistance. I wanted to express that this document is a document that the Health, Education, Human Services Committee owns now as well. And just like Resource and Development Committee and the Budget and Finance Committee before it, the recommendation is to move this forward. And if there's any amendments, I leave that up to the Navajo Nation Council to go ahead and do those amendments. If you want to increase that amount or decrease the amount, we can have that discussion. But right now we have a little more than $16 million in the UUFB. I know that there's legislations that are coming through for supplemental appropriations that we have, not only for certain kind of similar appropriations that we do annually, but I know that there's supplemental funds that will be going to the programs due to the fact that the indirect costs to all the programs across the Navajo Nation who rely on indirect cost funds are really going to be subject to shortfalls this year. So I know I'm working together with them, with all the programs, executive, judicial, and the legislative, to come together and get an appropriation supplemental funds that's probably going to be around anywhere between $4 to $5 million. Now that's an allocation, Honorable James, to keep. If you think about what's that going through, that's about $5 million, $2 million, we're at $7 million of appropriations, plus additional legislations that are coming through the pipelines. That'll probably be on the Navajo Nation Council's coffers desk, or that will be in the Navajo Nation spring session. Will probably be hovering around $8.5 million. If the Navajo Nation Council approves that, we're going to be down roughly under anywhere between $7 to $8 million left in the UUFB for this year. That's the reason why I relatively kept it around, hovering around $2 million, in order for us to have that cushion, just in case if there's any future recommendations for emergency funds for the remainder of the year that needs to go to the chapters, just to keep in recommendation that there's further projected appropriations that are probably coming down the pipeline that's going to be needed to supplement a lot of these different costs. So that's the reason why I offsetted the recommendation that you see before you, in order for it to be $2 million. Honorable Chairman Vince James, I hope I answered your question. And if there's any other further questions, again, I do thank Casey Johnson, Honorable Casey Johnson, for being there at the Health, Education, Human Services Committee meeting. But if there's any further questions, Madam Chair, Pro Tem Chair, let me go ahead and defer this back to the floor, and then I can go ahead and answer that. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to go ahead and present that answer to your question at this time. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Delegate Damon and Chair, thanks. Did he answer your question?
Yes, he did, Pro Temp. Yeah. I do have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Thank you, Pro Temp. My follow-up question is going to be in regards to what is the plan with those current chapters that do have funding already that's been sitting there in summer youth line item? What do we do with those fundings? How do we address those needs with the chapters? But then again, on top of that, we're still providing them more additional funds. That'd be my first question. My second one is going to be pertaining to the smaller chapters. When you start looking at the smaller chapters, you know, they won't have that much funding, and they will not be able to hire more students at those smaller chapters. Was that also looked into? If so, if that was looked into, or if it was addressed, can you share that information with us, Delegate Damon? Those will be my two follow-up questions. Thank you.
Chair, I have a question also. Mr.
Okay,
Toth.
go ahead, Delegate Toth, go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak. I have the same concern regards to what the chair said. A lot of chapter are not using these funds. They're giving the community a hard time, so I would recommend if those chapter are not using the fund, should be excluded. And so right now, some chapter are not using these funds. So I would recommend that they need to start spending if we're going to give money to them. So in this case, we can start giving money to them. They're not using it, so they need to spend these money that was given to them by the tribe. It should be illegal. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Toth. Okay, we'll go ahead and give the floor back to Delegate Damon.
Thank you very much, Honorable Madam Chair, Pro Tem Chair, Elena Nesbigay. Thank you very much to the questions again, not only by Chairman Vince James and Honorable George Toth. The question alluded back to the conception of the legislation. Honorable James goes back to historical, appropriations that we have had in the past. This legislation, if you see, $2 million is divvied up on the 50-50 formula. And the recommendation that I used when I put this legislation together was the assistance from the election office, who provided the most current recent voter registration, and that was done on March 30th of last month, a couple of weeks ago. And in doing that, the obligation that we have had to really try to fulfill the needs of the chapter's goals, and one is the operations that we have annually in order for us to go ahead and give these additional appropriations to the chapter funds for our summer youth employees at this time. It's just off the historic record of the annual appropriation that is outside of the general fund budget. There is options that are on the table that have been presented in the past. Some of those options have been utilizing UUFB funds to go to other service departments. One of them is like Office of Youth Development. And that usually depends on the agency request. This isn't that request. This is, as I have stated on the floor many times, I don't believe that that gives the direct authority for the local empowerment for the chapters to go ahead and utilize to the best interest in hiring the Navajo Nation summer youth employees and our students to go ahead and get that information or to go and get that experience. So this legislation goes to fund the chapters directly. Now, your second question is if there's any other further recommendation. Again, that recommendation to utilize that system, there's only been two approaches that I've seen. One is to give the dollars directly to on the 50-50 formula basis, which is suggested and recommended in Title 26. The second recommendation is to give the dollars to an additional outside entity outside the chapters, and that is the recommendation that has been done in the past to give these dollars to the youth development program. I think I've stated my stance on that. I don't see that there's any other option, like I said, Honorable Vince James, that I got from the Office of Division of Community Development or from the local HEHSC or any other group that has any representation working with the Navajo Nation chapters to come up with any other formula or other recommendation. if that's something that wants to be had and looked at, that's something I think that we can have a task in order for us to go ahead and get these dollars out on a different variable basis. If we're trying to fund the chapters or youth employees on historical records on the average amount of employment that the chapters do receive, and that might be subjugated to on the same lines, whether it be your question about funding the smaller chapters is not equivalent as funding to the bigger chapters. And that's the reason why the 50-50 formula is used in order for that relationship to make sure that there's some kind of equity amongst all 110 chapters. That if you're from a chapter like my home chapter of Bahale, which is roughly has about 850 voters, it's not going to get the same kind of services like your chapter, one of your largest chapters, Honorable Chairman James, like Ganado, and the subject clause in order for us to go ahead and get that information out there and to try to highlight to see how many students that can be adopted to help assist is in that formula that we currently have, and that's in law, that's currently in Title 26. So if there's another formula or other clause, I'm open to having that discussion. And if that's going to be historical records on how many students that they have been hired, or on an annual, or if not just on a summertime annual, but a whole yearly basis for the chapters. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the chapters don't just utilize just these program dollars, at least for summer too as well. They also use them for like fall, spring break, Christmas break, in order to hire our local students when they do get on or come back, especially if it's for like college students too as well. So the authority I give now is that back to the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. If there's a recommendation for an amendment, I'm open to that concept, but I don't have anything in writing specifically right now. And I think that concept and those reviews can be looked at by the Navajo Nation Controller, or specifically the investment portfolio or investment team, because they really have a good manager there that can help assess these algorithms or these new formulas to go ahead and help assist to come up with a better responsive action so that we can go ahead and fund these our community chapters. Madam Chair, Pro Tem Chair, moving on to Honorable George Tolt's recommendation. If there's an amendment for that, I haven't seen that amendment. Maybe that's something that Honorable George Tolt he can work on to exclude the funds from the chapters that currently have an excessive threshold amount, or if they currently have an amount. I don't know what you're thinking of, but I think that's something that you can work on with Office Legislative Council and have that prepared in order for us to go ahead and have that discussion and that debate if you bring that forth, that recommendation. But at this time, this is going to all 110 chapters. There's no exclusions in here. All the chapters would be receiving the dollars. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I have another question. Follow.
Thank you, Delegate Dan. And we have our committee report here in front of us right now, so.
Mr. Totir.
Go ahead, Mr. Tolbert, and ask a question.
Go ahead. Madam Chair, Mr. Damon, the question I have is, when a chapter is capped, they only get being deducted 10%. Is this applied to also the students? Some chapter that I represent, or cap, and when the tribe gives them money, they've been deduct 10%. So these are todo there. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Delegate Damon, go ahead and answer that.
Thank you very much, to have that, question answered, Madam Pro Tem Chair. I go ahead and, leave that to your legislative council, and I think, Ms. Kristen Lowell would have the best, explanation for that, for the legal standard of any kind of, I guess, particular action if there's a chapter and sanction. So I would refer that question be answered by Christina, Ms. Lowell, and I do believe she's there. I see her on the Zoom call, so thank you.
Yes, thank you, Delegate Damon. Okay, go ahead, legislator.
Thank you, Chairman Pro Tem. This is Kristen Lowell from the Office of Legislative Counsel. Delegate Toll, Delegate Damon, I need to just quick look at the code and see what kind of funding what kind of fund type rather the 10% applies to. So if I can have just a couple minutes to look at the code. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead. We have the committee report here in front of us right now.
Madam Chair,
So we'll go ahead and call for a motion right now.
Mr. Toth again. Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Toth.
I did not hear what the interpretation was. She was going too fast, so I just need to.
Get closer to the mic. Wait on.
Okay, Chairwoman Pro Tem, Delegate Toll, Delegate Damon. So the Auditor General Plan of Operation provides that certain percent of funding is withheld from sanctions imposed on programs, and that includes chapters. And those, it applies to any governmental fund of the Navajo Nation as defined in the Appropriations Act. And I just have to look to the Appropriations Act to see specifically what kind of fund that is. All right, government fund types. It reads, government funds are those groups of accounts which account for most governmental functions of the Navajo Nation. Acquisition, use, and balances of expendable financial resources and related liabilities. So it gives further examples. There's general funds, special revenue fund, capital projects fund. So under that definition, this does appear that the chapters under sanction would be receiving a reduced amount of funds based on this definition. Chairwoman Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and give the floor to our legislative advisor, Angie, to read into the records of legislation factor number 0050-23.
Delegate James here, Pro Temp Chair. Can you call for a roll call since we came back from recess?
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's do a roll call. Angie, you want to do or Karen's going to do a roll call.
Roll call for coming back from recess at 2:16. Delegate William again.
Present.
Thank you. Chairman Vince R. James,
Delegate James present.
thank you. Dr. Andy Ness,
Present.
Delegate Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson.
Simonson.
Delegate George Toth,
I'm here.
Delegate Curtis Unito. Delegate Curtis Unito. Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have five members present.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Correction, Madam Chair, you have 6 members present.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go on to legislation number 0050-23 and legislative advisor Angie Bowman. I have.
Yes, Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have legislation number 0050-23 before you. And you see, it's the proposed nomination to the position first year 2023, introduced by Delegate Seth Bateman and co-sponsored by Casey Johnson. Tracking number 0050-23, and action relating to the recommendation resource and development health and police and application council $32 million from the unreserved designated fund out summary youth 2023 youth employment programs waiving 12 in the section 820E, 820F, 820J, and 820L to allow use of USD funds for recurring chapter expenses. The legislation does move on to the non-executive committee, and we have the legislation in its entirety with exhibits A, B, C, and a D. D is also attached along with the transmittal letter and along with the legislative council for the sponsor. Also, there's a and then the legislation has gone before the for 5-day public comment period. One comment was received, a comment recommendation from Solani Cottonwood chapter, which is attached. Also, supporting comment from Hawk chapter, which is attached. Then you have your budget and finance committee report for the legislation 0050-23 that indicates a vote of 5-0 and it was taken on April 11, 2023. Also, the resources and development committee has taken action on this particular legislation. We do pass with no amendments, and the vote was 401 with the chair not voting, and it was taken on April 12, 2023. Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for that? Can I get a motion for that legislation that was just read?
Delegate James.
And second?
Yanito.
Any more questions? Any more questions? Pretty much we covered this already, so. If not, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Angie.
Madam Chair Pro Tem and members of the Health and Human Services, the roll call vote for legislation 0050-23. Delegate Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jan votes green.
Thank you. Delegate Dr. Andy Ness.
Green.
Thank you. And Delegate Jermaine Simonson.
Simonson votes green.
Thank you. Delegate George Stowe.
Green,
Thank you. Delegate Curtis Ito. How do you vote? Delegate Curtis Ito, how do you vote?
Delegate votes green.
Thank you. Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have a vote of 5-0 with the Pro Tem Chair not voting.
Okay, thank you, and you're excused, Delegate Johnson.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable HESC committee members, Pro Tem Chair, and all the HESC.
Yeah.
Delegate, Sampson. Wants to add on, legislation tracking number 0059-23 to the agenda. And the committee report is attached. We have it here. And to amend the agenda.
We're ready for.
We'll go ahead and give the floor to Angie.
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. Health Education and Human Services Committee members, I emailed legislation 0023 to you earlier. It's a large document. And I know it's going to take some time to read you, but I did email you a copy that includes the committee report from the Budget Finance Committee. And then the Resources and Development Committee hand delivered their committee report as well, and we have that in hand. But that portion, that RDC report did not get emailed to you, but I can read that one into the record. Madam Chair Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and read that into the records for us, legislative advisors.
Madam Chair Pro Tem, still need to amend the agenda to add legislation 005923 to your agenda. Madam Chair Pro Tem.
Okay, to amend the agenda, we need a motion and second to that.
This is Delegate Nez. I motion to suspend floor rules to add the the resolution to the HES this afternoon. I motion.
Thank you. Second. Do I have a second?
Mr. Toth.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and add on the legislation 0059-23 and legislative advisor Angie's going to take a roll call vote for that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem, and members of the Health Education and Human Services Committee. You have an amendment to add legislation 0059-23 to your agenda for today. The motioning party is Delegate Dr. Nez and second by Delegate George Stowe. And this is to add this item to your current agenda. Delegate Vince Gaines, how do you vote?
I can vote.
Delegate James votes green.
Delegate Dr. Nez, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. And Delegate Jermaine Simonson, how do you vote?
Delegate Simonson votes green.
Delegate George Stowe, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Delegate Curtis, you need to, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Madam Chair Pro Tem, you have a vote of 5-0, and Chair Pro Tem not voting to add legislation 005-23 to your agenda.
Okay, well, thank you, our legislative advisor, Angie. And at this time, go ahead and read the legislation into the records.
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem, you and members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. You have your proposed nomination council resolution for the nomination council introduced by Delegate Danny Simpson, tracking number as sponsor, and tracking number 0059-22. An action related to the budget and finance resource development, health, education, and services, committees, and nomination council. Amending -39-18 to extend the CSC funds reserve deadline for Navajo student housing expenditures. The legislation does move on to the nominating committee, and the legislation packet does have the exhibits with letters of support for the legislation. There are information attached, and also the legislation has gone out for its 5-day public comment period, and thus far 34 comments in support of the resolution were received, and was a comment and recommendation that was received by Web Gibson, and the comments and petition for support of this legislation is attached. Also, we have the committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee for legislation 0059-23, and there's a vote of 2 in favor and 1 opposed. And it was taken on April 11th, 2023. Also attached and received is a committee report from the Resources and Development Committee for this particular legislation 0059-23. And it indicates that a vote of 401 was taken on April 12th, 2023. And it's also signed with no amendments. Madam Chair, Pro Tem?
Do we have any questions? We have the sponsor here, Danny Simpson, and I forgot to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Go ahead and introduce.
Jason recently share and shown those asking position or that trade those I'm from Copper, New Mexico, and I work as Vice President of Operations at Navajo Technical University.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you. I think I will have, if there's
Health, Education, and Human Services Committee members, can you still hear us by Zoom?
Yes, it would off briefly, but we can hear you.
We can hear you now.
No, it's on. It says it's on. Hello, Health Education Human Services Committee, can you hear us over Zoom? We lost connection just for a minute.
Yes, we
Hello?
can. Yes, we can.
Delegate James, can you hear us?
Yes, this is Delegate James. We can hear you now.
Delegate Simonson, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm sorry. Health Education and Human Services Committee members, can you hear us? Delegate James, Delegate Simonson, Delegate Toth, and Delegate Dr. Nez.
This is Delegate James. We can hear you.
Thank you. We lost internet connection just momentarily. We're back on Madam Chair Pro Tem.
Okay, we'll go ahead. We're asking for a motion for this legislation. I don't know where we lost you guys.
Oh, we did.
No, that was to suspend the floor.
Oh, okay.
This is Delegate James. I'll go ahead and.
I'll go ahead, second, Mr. Toe.
So, yeah. Do you guys have any questions? Committee, do you have any question? If not, we'll just go into a roll call vote.
No question.
No question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem and members of the Health Education and Human Services Committee. This is a roll call vote for legislation 0059-43. And we have a motion by Delegate Vince James and second by Delegate George Toth. Delegate Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Delegate Dr. Annie, yes, how do you vote?
Green.
Delegate Jermaine Simonson, how do you vote?
Simonson votes green.
Delegate George Toth, how do you vote?
Oh, I guess I'll vote green, sir, madam.
Thank you, Delegate Toth. Delegate Curtis Anito, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Delegate Dr. Annie Nez, how do you vote? If you could text your vote into that, I could, that's.
I vote green.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nez. Madam Chair, you have a vote of 5-0-1 with Chair Pro Tem not voting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pro Tem,
Yes.
Chair.
Oh,
I say, yeah, thank you to your committee.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give the to you, Priscilla. Delegate James.
Shada, thank you for that. And that does complete our legislation, 5 legislation, A, B, C, D, and F legislations that were approved. So again, I had HESC committee members for that. And then now moving on to item number 8, which is close of meetings. Next item is announcement. Committee members, do we have any announcements? If there is none, once, twice, gone, no more. Moving on to adjournment.
Motion.
Motion made by Honorable Toth, second by second by Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. With that, I'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote to adjourn here at 2:30 p.m. Honorable Helena Nez-Begay,
I vote green.
Honorable Dr. Andy Nez, Honorable Vice Chair Simonson,
Green.
Honorable Toth,
Green.
Honorable Yanuto.
Great.
Thank you very much, committee members. With that, we do here adjourn at 2:30 p.m. Our next meeting is now for Nation Council session next week, April 17th to the 21st. And then Health, Education, Human Service Committee regular meeting is Wednesday, April 26th at 10 a.m. That does complete our agenda and our special meeting for today. Everyone take care and enjoy your Wednesday. Hug on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.